Imagine being blamed for a child you never carried, a sin you never committed, and a love you never asked for. That was Mira's life the moment everything changed. In the heart of Surulere, Lagos, there stood a tall grey house with big black gates and a sharp-tongued madam. Inside that house walked a girl no one noticed until the day they all turned against her. Her name was Mira. She was only 20, soft-spoken and painfully obedient. Orphaned at 15, Mira had been passed from one distant relative to another until she ended up as a housemaid in the Martins family. She cooked, cleaned, swept, scrubbed. She did everything except resting. But Mira didn't complain. The family's house was her only shelter. The maid quarters was tight and hot, but it was better than the streets. Every night, she would whisper, "Thank you, God. At least I'm safe." One Friday night, as Mira was about to go to bed, she had forgotten her bedroom keys at the laundry room. She turned back to pick the keys, and as soon as she opened the door, what she saw baffled her. She saw Madame Gloria's son and his cousin sister making love. The both of them stood frozen. From that moment, Mira's eyes saw what she shouldn't see, and Madame Gloria's son swore to silence her. One Saturday morning, while Mira was ironing Madame Gloria's lace wrapper, a loud scream shook the house. "Mira!" Her heart jumped. The hot iron almost burned her skin. Her heart dropped. She rushed into the sitting room with her legs trembling. Madame Gloria was standing with her phone in one hand and a pregnancy test strip on the other hand. "Madam," Mira said, her voice barely coming out. Gloria's eyes burned with rage. You think I won't find out? So you've been busy opening your legs in my house, eh?" Mira froze. "Madam, I don't understand." "Don't act stupid," Gloria roared. "You thought I wouldn't know that you've been sneaking into my son's room every night? Tell me the truth now before I tear you into pieces." Mira's hands shook. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "Answer me, my friend. Is it his child that you're carrying?" "Child? I'm not pregnant, ma." Gloria stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face. The words spun in her eyes. "You dirty girl. After everything I've done for you, this is how you thank me? By sleeping with my son behind my back?" "No, ma. I swear. I'm not sleeping with your son. I've never even been with a man before." Mira cried, holding her face. "Shut up!" Gloria screamed again. "You liar. Do you think my son would deny it when I asked him?" The front door opened. Daniel walked in, tall, handsome, and looking confused. "Mom, what's going on?" "Daniel," Gloria turned to her son with fire in her voice. "Look at that girl. She's been sleeping with you, hasn't she? Now she's pregnant." Daniel blinked. "What? You had me?" Gloria threw the test strip at him. "She just confessed. Your little housemaid is pregnant and claiming it is yours." Mira gasped. "I never said that, madam. Please, keep quiet, my friend." Daniel looked at Mira. "That's a lie. I've never touched her." Mira turned to Daniel with pleading eyes. "Sir, please tell her the truth. Tell her I never came near your room." Daniel frowned. "I already said I didn't touch you now." "Then why is she pregnant?" Gloria screamed. "Did the pregnancy fall from heaven?" Mira fell to her knees. "I swear to God, I'm not pregnant. Please, just take me to the hospital, let them check." "You think I'm stupid? You've probably done something to remove it, you cheap thing. You opened your legs and now you're pretending." Mira began to sob, unable to breathe properly. Then came the worst part. "You are leaving this house today. Before my temper gets worse, take your rags and get out of here." "Mommy, I don't think this is..." "Shut up your mouth," Gloria snapped. "You think I don't know what you boys do, you spoilt brat. I warned you about keeping your distance from this girl." Daniel looked at Mira. Their eyes met, but his expression gave nothing away. He said nothing. He did nothing. Not even when Mira fell flat on the floor begging. That evening, as rain poured from the sky, Mira stood outside the Martins gate with nothing but a black nylon bag and soaked slippers. She watched the street lights flicker. Nobody had asked for proof. Nobody had listened to her tears. Nobody had cared. She was now a pregnant girl in the eyes of the world, carrying a child that never existed. She didn't know where to go. She didn't know who to trust, but she knew one thing. Someone inside that house wanted her gone, and whoever it was had succeeded. But why? What were they hiding? And why would Daniel, the only person who could have spoken up for her, stay so quiet? The answers would come, but first, Mira had to survive the night. As thunder cracked across the sky, she tightened her wrapper and began to walk. Each step into the dark was heavier than the last. Each second burned like fire inside her chest. But even as her tears mixed with the rain, she whispered again, "God, please, if I'm still your child, don't let this be the end." The rain didn't stop that night. It poured like the sky was weeping with Mira. Her thin wrapper clung to her skin and her feet were blistered from walking. She had no umbrella, no food, and nowhere to sleep. Every house she passed had light, laughter, and warmth, but not for her. When she finally saw a quiet compound with an unpainted house and a broken gate, she stopped. There was a small abandoned shop beside the building, the kind of place no one cared about anymore. Its windows were cracked and the wooden door hung loosely on rusted hinges. Mira pushed it open and stepped inside. The floor was dusty. The air was thick with the smell of old things, but it was dry and it was empty. She dropped her nylon bag in the corner and sank to the ground, wrapping herself tight. Then the silence hit her, so loud it made her ears ring. She thought of the Martins' house, the only place she had known for 3 years. Madame Gloria's voice, Daniel's silence, and the lie that ruined everything. Mira whispered to herself, "But I didn't do anything." The words broke her. She cried again, this time harder than before. She cried until her chest hurt, and then she fell asleep. But even in sleep, there was no peace. She dreamt of crying, of Madame Gloria holding a knife, and in the corner, someone was laughing. The next morning, Mira woke up to the sound of movement outside. Voices. She sat up quickly, heart racing. 2 women were arguing in the yard. One of them said, "That shop again. I told Baba Sunday to lock it." Mira froze. She grabbed her nylon bag and ran out the back door. She didn't wait to hear more. She just kept moving. By midday, her body was weak. Her head was light. She needed food. She begged by a roadside canteen, but they chased her away. "Go and beg the man you slept with," one woman shouted. She didn't even know her name. By nightfall, Mira was sitting near an old church, watching people go in for evening prayers. She wanted to enter, but she was too ashamed. She didn't even look like someone God would listen to. Then, a soft voice beside her said, "Why are you sitting alone?" Mira turned. A man, middle-aged, with calm eyes, wearing neat trousers and holding a bunch of keys. He wore a name tag, Deacon Ben. I'm just resting," Mira said. "You look like you've been crying," he said. Mira looked away. "I'm fine. Do you want to join the service?" She shook her head. "Can I get you water?" She didn't answer, but he brought it anyway. When he returned, he handed her a sachet of cold water. Mira drank it slowly, her hands shaking. "You don't have to tell me what happened," he said gently, "but if you need a safe place to sleep, the guest room at the back of the church is open. I'll leave the light on." He stood up and walked away. Mira stared at the building for a long time. Then she stood up and followed him. That night, Mira slept on a thin mattress with a fan blowing gently above her. No shouting, no lies, no fears. But still she couldn't rest because something wasn't right. Who planted that pregnancy test? She had never missed a period, never even kissed anyone. So how? Something inside her told her this was more than just a mistake. Someone had planned it, and if she didn't find out who, she would carry this shame forever. The next day, Deacon Ben brought her breakfast. "Mira," he said kindly, "I don't know what happened, but I know you are not a bad person." "Thank you, sir," she said quietly. "You can stay for a few days," he added. "Clean the hall, help with the chairs until you're strong enough." Mira nodded, tears threatening to fall from her eyes. That week, she worked hard. She cleaned every bench, swept every corner, helped carry equipment. People started smiling at her, calling her Sister Mira. But behind every smile, she still felt like a stranger until she saw him. It was a Sunday morning. The service was just ending, and Mira was at the side of the church hall, picking hymn books, when her eyes locked onto Daniel. He was standing near the exit, alone. Mira froze. He hadn't seen her yet, but he was there, in her space, in her peace. Suddenly, a voice whispered in her heart, "Follow him." She didn't know where the voice came from, but her feet moved out of the church, across the compound, down the road. Daniel entered a nearby pharmacy. Mira stood outside, hiding behind a kiosk. He came out, holding a brown paper bag. She kept following. He walked into a compound, not his house, a smaller compound, then into a flat. He had a key. Why was he here? She wondered. She waited and waited. Then a girl stepped out of the same house. Mira's jaw dropped. It was Madame Gloria's niece, Sarah. The same girl who used to mock her every week. The same girl who once told Mira, "If you disappear, the house will feel fresher." Sarah was now adjusting her blouse and waving Daniel goodbye. Mira's heart pounded. Something wasn't right. Why was Daniel secretly seeing Sarah? She suddenly remembered their dirty deeds in the laundry room. Could it be? She braked into a deep thought. What if Sarah was the one pregnant, and the test strips wasn't meant to frame Mira at all, but to hide Sarah's secret? They framed me to hide their dirty secrets. They thought I would expose them. Mira was just the perfect scapegoat. She was poor, powerless, replaceable, and disposable. But she had just seen something they didn't want her to see. And from that moment, Mira knew they didn't want her out of the house. They also wanted her silenced. She could not sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel stepping out of Sarah's house with that brown pharmacy bag. She saw Sarah adjusting her blouse. She saw the smirk on her face. The pieces were clicking into place and her heart raced with fear. What if Madame Gloria never knew the truth? What if it was Sarah and Daniel all along and they pinned it on her to save themselves? The thought made her chest tighten. What could she do? Who would believe a poor maid over the word of Madame Gloria's only son and beloved niece? The next morning at the church guest room, Mira tried to act normal as she swept the hall, but her hands trembled on the broom handle. Deacon Ben noticed. "Mira, are you okay?" She forced a smile and replied, "Yes, sir," but her mind was already somewhere else. She needed proof. She needed to catch Sarah and Daniel together. Because without proof, she was just a poor girl with tears and accusations. That evening, she followed Daniel again. This time, she wore a borrowed scarf from one of the church women, covering half her face. She waited near Sarah's street until she saw Daniel coming. And like before, she walked into Sarah's compound. This time, Mira crept closer. She hid behind a mango tree near the gate. Through a slightly opened window, she saw shadows moving inside. Then she heard Sarah's voice. "Daniel, we can't hide this forever. What if Mommy finds out?" Daniel's reply was sharp. "Do you want her to kill me? If she knows you're pregnant, it's over. She'll disown me. She'll throw you away too." Mira's heart skipped. Pregnant. Sarah was pregnant. Sarah sighed. But framing that maid, was it really necessary? Mira's whole body stiffened. Daniel's voice dropped lower, but Mira strained her ears. "She saw us making love, have you forgotten? This was the perfect way to get rid of her because she's poor. She has no family. Who is going to defend her? My mother believes anything I say. If we don't throw suspicion on someone else, everything points back to us. Do you want that? Sarah was silent for a long time. Then she said softly, "But what if she talks?" Daniel laughed coldly. Who will listen to her? She's already been disgraced. Even if she screams the truth in the market square, no one will care. Mira's legs nearly gave way beneath her. The truth was worse than she imagined. She had been used and sacrificed like trash. Her innocence stolen, not by touch, but by lies. And the worst part was Daniel's calm voice, as if ruining her life meant nothing. Mira ran back to the church before they could see her. She cried into her pillow that night until her throat was sore. But in her pain, something hardened inside of her. She had always been quiet, always obedient, always overlooked. But this was too much.
She whispered through her tears, "God, if you're watching, please give me strength because I won't be silent." The following week, rumors spread like wildfire. Madame Gloria's voice could be heard all the way down the street as she told anyone who cared to listen. "That useless maid tried to trap my son with pregnancy. Can you imagine? I sent her away before she could disgrace us any further." Mira heard the whispers everywhere she went. People spat on the ground when she passed. One woman hissed, "Shameless girl, sleeping with Oga's son." Another added, "Now she wants pity. Nonsense." The shame was suffocating, but Mira carried her secret like hidden fire in her chest. She knew the truth, and one day she would make the whole world see it. That evening, as she was helping Deacon Ben arrange chairs, a man in fine suit walked into the church. He was tall, with calm but powerful presence. His eyes scanned the hall like someone used to giving orders. He introduced himself to Ben. "Good evening. I am Mr. Richard. I was told the church is looking for sponsors for the youth program." Ben smiled. "Ah, yes. Welcome, sir." But Richard's eyes had already shifted. They had landed on Mira. For a moment, she felt naked under his gaze, not because it was unkind, but because it was searching. Ben noticed and chuckled. "That's Mira. She's been staying here and helping us. A very hard-working girl." Mira lowered her head quickly. She didn't want trouble. But Richard didn't look away. Something about her face, her silence, her pain written in her eyes. He didn't know why, but he wanted to know her story. Later that night, as Mira left the church hall with a bucket of water, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. It was Richard. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I don't mean to startle you." Mira hugged the bucket closer. "Good evening, sir." He hesitated. Then he said, "Do you stay here in the church?" "Yes, sir." "Do you have a family?" Mira swallowed. "No, sir." There was a long silence. Finally, Richard said, "You don't need to tell me what happened, but I can see something is breaking you inside. When you're ready, I will listen." He walked away before she could reply. Mira stood frozen, the bucket heavy in her hands. For the first time in weeks, someone had spoken to her like she was human. But she didn't know that Richard wasn't just anyone. He was a billionaire businessman, one of the powerful men in the States, and soon her path and his would collide in ways neither of them expected. But even as a spark of hope flickered inside Mira's heart, a shadow was moving against her, because back at the Martins' house, Sarah had started to panic. Her stomach was growing, the lies were harder to hide, and Madame Gloria was getting suspicious. That night, Sarah whispered to Daniel, "If Mira ever finds a way to talk, if she ever has proof, we are finished." Daniel's reply was ice cold. "Then we'll make sure she never speaks again." Imagine being punished twice, first for a lie you didn't commit, and then for still daring to breathe after it. That was Mira's reality. The days at the church gave her a little strength, but her name in the town was still dating. No one wanted to hire her, No one wanted to listen to her story. She was the maid who got pregnant for her master's son, a cause she didn't earn. But Richard kept watching her. Whenever he visited the church, his eyes searched for her. He saw how she cleaned without complaint, how she smiled even when people mocked her, how she carried heavy buckets others refused to touch. One evening, he called her, "Mira." She turned slowly, surprised he remembered her name. "Yes, sir." "Will you come and work for me?" he asked. Her heart jumped. "Work for you?" "Yes. I own a company downtown, but I also need someone to manage my home staff. I can see you are diligent and..." He paused, his eyes softening. "I believe you deserve a new beginning." Mira's throat tightened. 100 thoughts rushed through her mind. What if he was like Madame Gloria? What if it was another trap? But something in Richard's voice was different. There was no judgment, no disgust, just sincerity. I will try, sir," she whispered. He nodded. "Good. Tomorrow, I'll send a car to pick you up." The next day, Mira sat in the back of a sleek black SUV, her nylon bag on her lap, staring at the tinted windows in disbelief. She had entered another world. Richard's house wasn't just big, it was a palace. Marble floors, chandeliers, staff in uniforms. She almost fainted when she stepped in. "You have your own room," Richard said calmly, "and your salary starts immediately." Mira's knees nearly buckled. A room? Salary? She wasn't used to kindness. "Thank you, sir. God bless you." Richard studied her for a moment, then said, "One day, tell me the truth about what happened, but not today. Rest first." Mira nodded quickly, fighting tears. But peace doesn't last long when the enemies are still breathing. Back at Martin's house, Stella was getting desperate. Her clothes were no longer hiding her growing belly. One afternoon, Gloria barged into Sarah's room without knocking and froze. "Sarah, what is this?" she asked, her eyes wide open. Sarah stuttered. "Mommy, I..." Gloria screamed. "You are pregnant? Who is responsible?" Sarah's hand shook. Her lips quivered, and then she whispered, It's Daniel." The words stood still. Gloria staggered back, almost collapsing. "My son? With you? His own cousin?" Sarah began to cry. "I didn't mean for it to happen. We love each other." Gloria's voice cracked. "Love? Do you know what people will say? You will destroy this family's name, you stupid girl." She raised her hand to slap her, but stopped midway, shaking. Sarah fell to her knees. "Please, don't tell anyone, please. We can't let this come out." Gloria paced the room like a lioness. Then suddenly, her eyes narrowed. "The maid," she whispered. Sarah looked up, confused. "What?" Gloria clenched her fists. "We already told everyone she was pregnant. No one will ever believe otherwise. Do you understand? No one must know it is you. If anyone asks, Mira remains the shame of this family." Sarah wiped her tears, fear mixing with relief. "Yes, Auntie." "Good," Gloria hissed. "Now go and hide yourself. When the time comes, we'll find a way to cover it." But secrets have a way of slipping through the cracks, because that same night, Daniel argued with Sarah in her room. "I told you not to tell her," he snapped. "What was I supposed to do? She caught me." Daniel rubbed his face. "If this gets out, I'm finished. My father will disown me." Sarah's voice broke. "Then what do we do?" Daniel's eyes turned dark. "We make sure Mira never returns. Ever. If she dares to open her mouth, we'll shut it permanently." Meanwhile, in Richard's house, Mira was beginning to smile again. For the first time in years, she ate to her fill. She slept on a bed that didn't hurt her back. She wore clean clothes that smelled of soap. But one evening, as she was watering the flowers, she overheard two of Richard's staff whispering. "Do you know that girl?" one asked. "Yes," the other replied. "She's the maid who got pregnant for her August son. I heard she was thrown out." Mira froze, the watering can trembling in her hands. So even here, the lie had followed her. She dropped the can and ran into her room, locking the door. She pressed her face into the pillow and screamed silently. The shame was everywhere. It was like a shadow she couldn't escape. She thought of leaving, running far away, but something inside her whispered, "Don't run. The truth will defend you." That night, there was a knock on her door. "Mira?" It was Richard's. She quickly wiped her face. "Yes, sir." "May I come in?" She hesitated, and then she said, "Yes." He stepped inside, his eyes scanning her tear-stained cheeks. "You've been crying," he said softly. "No, sir, I'm fine." Richard pulled a chair and sat across from her. "Mira, don't lie to me. I told you, one day, tell me the truth." Her lips trembled. For a long time, she said nothing. Then finally, the words broke out. "I was accused of something I didn't do. They said I was pregnant. They said it was my August son. But it's a lie, sir. A big lie." Richard's face remained calm, but his eyes sharpened. "Who said this?" "My Madam Gloria. And..." Mira hesitated, her knees trembling. "Her niece, Sarah." Richard leaned forward. "Why?" "I don't know, sir, but they hated me and I saw something. Daniel and Sarah, they are hiding something, I think." Her voice cracked. "I think Sarah is the pregnant one. I caught them once making out with each other in the laundry room too. They were scared I would expose them." For a long time, Richard said nothing. His mind raced. Finally, he stood up. "Mira, listen to me. Don't fear. If you're innocent, we will prove it. I don't care who they are." His voice was firm, cold, and powerful. Mira stared at him, her heart pounding. For the first time, someone believed her. But even as hope flickered in her chest, far away in the Martins' mansion, Daniel was on the phone. His voice was low and dangerous. "She's still alive, and now she's staying with Richard of all people. If she talks, everything collapses. We need to end this before she opens her mouth." The Martins' house was no longer quiet. Whispers had started leaking into the community. Sarah was falling sick often. Her stomach was harder to hide. Madame Gloria's temper grew hotter each day, snapping at everyone. And Daniel, he was sleeping, drinking, avoiding home. The lie they had built was cracking, but instead of confessing, they were planning darker things. One night, as Mira was returning from the church choir rehearsal with some staff, a black car slowed down beside her. Before she could react, two men jumped out. "Now you be Mira," one barked. Her blood froze. They grabbed her arm. But just then, headlights flooded the street. A familiar SUV screeched to a stop. It was Richard. "Let her go," he thundered, stepping out with two security guards. The men hesitated. "You know who I am," Richard growled. "Touch her again and you will rot in prison." The men exchanged glances, then bolted back into their car and sped off. Mira collapsed in tears. Richard rushed to her, holding her trembling shoulders. "They are after you," he said firmly, "and I know exactly who sent them." The next morning, Richard made his move. He called Madame Gloria directly. "Mrs. Martins." His voice was calm but sharp. "We need to talk tonight, at my residence." Gloria stiffened. "What is this about?" "You already know," he replied and ended the call. That evening, the Martins arrived. Madame Gloria, Daniel, and Sarah. The atmosphere in Richard's living room was heavy, like a courtroom before judgment. Mira sat quietly in a corner, her hands shaking. Richard stood tall. "I'll get straight to the point. You accuse this girl of being pregnant. you destroyed her name, but the truth is different." Gloria scoffed. "Don't tell me you believe what the maid said, the nonsense that she said." Richard turned to Mira. "Tell them what you saw." Mira swallowed hard. "I saw Daniel visiting Sarah secretly. I also saw them making out in the laundry room too. I overheard them talking about a pregnancy, and I know I was used as a cover." Sarah gasped. "She's lying." But Richard's voice cut like steel. "No, you are lying, because I hired a private investigator 2 weeks ago, and these," he said as he dropped a file on the table, "are the medical reports from the pharmacy that Daniel visited." The room went silent. Richard's voice deepened. "Sarah, you are the one who is pregnant, not Mira." Gloria's face drained of color. "What?" Daniel stood up with his fists clenched. "This is rubbish. You can't." But Richard interrupted him. "I also have CCTV footage from the pharmacy. Would you like me to play it in front of everyone here?" Daniel froze. Sarah broke down in tears. I didn't want it to be like this. I'm sorry, Auntie." Gloria staggered back into her chair, her hands on her head. My God. Mira sat quietly, her heart racing. After months of shame, the truth was finally shining. But the moment wasn't over. Daniel suddenly pointed at Mira with rage in his eyes. "You think you've won? You think anyone will still respect you after this? You are just a maid. You will always be nothing." Richard stepped forward. His tone was calm but commanding. "No, Daniel. She's more than you will ever be, because she has something you lost long ago. Innocence, dignity, and truth." Gloria tried to speak, but Richard's glare silenced her. "I will not allow you destroy her again," he said. From that day, Mira's name began to clear. The whispers in the streets started to change. A church woman who once looked at her with suspicion now whispered, "So it wasn't her after all." But for Mira, the scars were still deep. One evening, she sat by the balcony of Richard's house, watching the sunset, lost in thought. Richard walked up quietly. "You are thinking again?" he said. She smiled faintly. "I'm just wondering, why me? Why did God allow me suffer like that?" Richard sat beside her. "Sometimes suffering is not punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. You were broken but not destroyed. And now," he paused, his eyes on hers, "now you can rise." Mira looked at him, her heart thumping. She didn't know why, but when she was near him, the world felt lighter and safer. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. "No," Richard said softly. "Don't call me sir. Just call me Richard." Their eyes locked, and for the first time in her life, Mira felt seen, truly seen. Months later, the Martins family name lay in ruins. Sarah was sent abroad in shame. Daniel vanished, unable to face the disgrace. Madame Gloria became a shadow of herself, bitter and broken. But Mira, her story changed. Richard sponsored her back to school. He gave her a chance to live again, and over time, something even deeper grew between them: respect, trust, and love. The girl that was once accused of carrying a child she never conceived now carried a future brighter than she ever dreamed. The moral lesson of this story reminds us that sometimes life throws you into pits you never dug. Sometimes people put clothes of shame on you that you never wore. But if you hold on, if you stay true, the same mouths that mocked you will one day speak the truth. Because lies may have speed, but truth has endurance. And in the end, truth always wins.